Let's pray to begin. Sean, since you're talking so much, please pray for us.
This is monumental. First time I've been asked to pray. Thank you, Pastor, for this moment of democracy. Thank you. Let's go ahead. Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for allowing this time. Lord, you've allowed us to have the facilities to do this training virtually. Be with our presenter, Lynelle. May she be clear. May everyone who's listening be able to understand what she is, the information she's giving us, not only to keep to ourselves, but also to spread it and to enhance the way we do your works. I pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, for those who are here, welcome, 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 welcome. We started our tech training. We started a while back, of course. Crusade happened, and that put a pause. And we wanted to continue. I didn't want to wait, another week to go by before we continued. I actually reached out to the presenter. I think it was Thursday or Wednesday, something like that, because the other presenter had some challenges. So I reached out to Lynelle, and she was very willing to make the presentation. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lynelle from a professional standpoint and then from a personal standpoint. Lynelle is a creative. Lynelle does like everything in the creative world. She's a singer. She has music videos. She has singles. She's a professional artist. She's a minister of the gospel. She's a writer. She plays tons of instruments. Like, she's just the creative. For our presentation, we're not focusing on her musical ability and her amazing songs and music videos, but we're focusing on who she is as a designer. And she is a designer. She's been designing for over 15 years. She's worked for some of the biggest companies in Barbados through her previous employer, and even as her a solo as an entrepreneur. She has done tons of great work at government level and regional level, and I'm pretty sure by now international level as well. She's done lots and lots of work. She does consulting with businesses, with other entrepreneurs. She does song production, graphic design for other creatives, other musicians. Like, she's deep into this, and God has really, really, really blessed her ministry. She has a business with her brother. They had a business together. So she's just ideal for this. And you know what I've always admired about Lynelle is that she's always used her ability, her gifts, her talents for God and for ministry. Always encouraging, always helping. So I was really not surprised when she agreed to do this to help us enhance our design in the district, and even for those who are not of the district. Professionally, I met Lynelle when she was about still in KK, so that was like, oh, you were Lynelle, like
it's probably 15? Halfway through secondary school.
Yeah, like third form or something like that. Yeah, because Lynelle's dad and we worked together. He was my mentor when I started to teach, and he became a father to me. So I also Lynelle as my sister, because from that age, like, that was like 2000, so like 21 years ago. Yeah, long time, 21 years ago. He became my adopted father, and Lynelle became my little sister, her brother, my brother, and we have been close ever since. And I really do respect her ministry, and I know she's going to do a great job today. So Lynelle, thank you so much for being here. No pressure. Everyone is pretty cool. I'm going to make you co-host, so you can like mute Sean. You can put him in the waiting room, like anything you want to do. Feel free. And feel free to engage. Feel free to engage the audience, etc. As I said, this will be recorded. It's being recorded, and you can we'll be sharing it with those who aren't here today. For the hour, those who are on, if you know anyone who is normally here and they maybe missed the link or whatever, you can share it let them know that we have started, and I hand you over to our presenter this evening, Lynelle Caines. Lynelle is married, by the way, to Chris. Yes, it's a ring, and Chris is a really nice guy. They've been married like 6 years now, almost 6 years, going 6 years, right?
June was 5. So, yeah.
June was 5, right? So he's a creative as well. I'm gonna share the link to her latest music video, if that's okay, Lynn, Glitch. And you will see her, and you will see Chris. Her husband is the guy chasing her down, the man in black.
He's the villain.
I will share that with you so you can see it afterwards. But without further ado, Lynn, thank you so much. May God bless you even as you minister through this training session today. So over to you. I may be in and out, so anything you need, Sean is gonna help me moderate. So you know, he will let you know if there's a hand up, if there's a question, you know, so you can call out to him. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. So good evening to everybody. I'm gonna say good evening or good afternoon because I figure Barbados and Trinidad at the same time. And I don't know who else. I don't know if there are any other territories that would end up in here today, but can everyone actually hear me clearly? For those who okay, cool. For those who I can't see, I hope that you can see and hear me. Okay, Carla Smith says yes. Great. All right, so in general, I'm a pretty sporty, easy, laid back kind of person. I love what I do, so this should be fun. And I hope that by the end of it, something that is said, you know, would be able to be of use to you guys. I am one for being very, very honest. I try not to be harsh with it, but yeah, I'll try to, you know, drop my descriptions and everything in the most diplomatic way possible, the most constructively, criticisively, to create a word. So yeah, all right, so I'm gonna actually share my screen. And in doing so, you may see me glance this way because you guys will be over on my other screen, right? So when I'm actually working and sharing my screen, I'll be able to look directly this way. What I'll basically be doing this evening is using a series of what I like to call benchmarks. So benchmarks being whenever you get a project to be done from someone gives you what we call in the industry a brief, basically just explaining what is required, in the case where there are costs and that kind of stuff, all of that will be listed in your brief. So basically what I'm going to be doing is using flyers that have been done by various people from various places, and I'll just use those to kind of explain the good, the bad, the in-between, the not so what you want to do, and maybe the what you would want to do, right? So I'm a visual person, so I find that that kind of helps people understand better rather than just saying stuff. So also, I'm aware that you guys use more so Canva. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't use Canva personally, but there's still principles obviously between our programs. Canva is actually one of those programs that was designed to help, I guess in a way, non-designers to do what I do, right? One thing that I will caution people with from the outset is that Canva, because it is template based, right? It helps people to move quicker. It helps people to get their designs out if they may not be able to, you know, put certain things together on their own. But Canva does not teach people how to see. It doesn't teach you how to actually design. So if you have some design skills, Canva can be an asset, right? If you don't have design skills or you haven't done any previous training in design, it can also be a hindrance if you don't know exactly how to use what you're seeing or you mix too many things together. So that's the caution from the outstretch. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna share my screen and we are gonna get started. Let's see. Let's share the screen. I was actually to ask, great. Start share. Great. Can you guys see an artboard?
Not yet.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
Great. Yeah. Can you also see yourselves since you're on the screen? That'll be interesting to know. Okay, cool. Zoom is very, very interesting. COVID has done a very interesting thing with the world today. Let's see. Okay, great. So I'm going to pose this question. No, and this is, I guess, why it's difficult because everybody's muted and I have no visuals of people. So I really don't know when I ask questions. I guess I'll have to depend on, the chat. Okay, I'm just moving stuff around so I can see what I'm doing. Cool. All right, so basically what I use for design is a master suite called Adobe. I don't know if anyone here has heard about Adobe. Right, cool. Sean has, Faith is nodding her head, great. Cool. For those of you who haven't, don't worry about it. It's not that I'm teaching you how to use Adobe this evening. It's just that obviously this is what I use. So I'll try to grab the basic principles when I'm actually doing stuff, right? But I've been using this for most of my time, from the time I was studying to today. So this is Illustrator, and Illustrator is what you would call a vector-based program. A vector is basically the opposite of a pixel. Now, I'm gonna just give you the most basic explanation of this because it will help in terms of when you're using Canva, because Canva also has vectors and also has pixels. Vectors are basically dots, right? And the dots basically make lines. Those lines join together to make shapes. And vectors are what you would call a non-destructible format. So you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want, and it won't get distorted, right? As opposed to pixels, which is what you would see most imagery made of. So if I take a picture of myself right now, it's going to be built of pixels. Everything you see on screen is pixels, right? If I make that too big and the resolution of the image was small, you would start to see pixelation and distortion in the image. It wouldn't be clean anymore. Y'all could just like nod if you get me. Cool, so far? All right, cool. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at some of these flyers. And obviously these flyers will be built of copy. What we call copy is text, basically, imagery, pixels, and then vector-based stuff, which you would see if I enlarge it, it stays sharp, or if you make it small, it stays the same way. All of these things matter because when you are, say somebody asks you to do a flyer for them, you don't really want to be grabbing images, and this is something that happens commonly, so that's why I'm mentioning it. If someone wants you to do, say, a flyer for an event, whether it be a conference, a show, a concert, anything like that, and say, for example, there are artists performing at it, you don't necessarily want to grab images off of the artist's Facebook or their Instagram or their Twitter, because those images, because of the platform that they're on, they're automatically compressed. And by compression, the actual pixel or dimensions of the quality of the image basically is made smaller, because on web, you need things to be very, very concise, right? So then if you try to make that bigger on something that, say for instance, you're even gonna print, you're gonna see that it's gonna look very pixelated and distorted and stuff. It won't be clean. So I always caution people there. That's the first thing. Try not to grab stuff off of Instagram or social media platforms. If you can get images directly from the people, that would be a great way to go. So let's start with, which one will I start with? We are going to start with, let's start with one that's good. Let's start with a really, really good one so that I can show you. Let's see, actually, I'm gonna start in the middle. Yeah, we're gonna start in the middle. So I'm going to grab a flyer and I'm gonna drop it here. Now, immediately when I drop this in here, you see it takes up the whole of my page, right? Now that's generally a sign that the image itself is a good quality, as in how it was saved by the designer allowed it to be used on something that was bigger and not just like a little thumbnail size type thing. So the artboard that I have here is actually 8.5 inches by 11 inches down, right? A little trick of the trade that I like to tell people as well, always call width by height. So 8.5 by 11. If you look in, if you go to a stationery store and you want to buy a pack of paper, computer paper, you'll see letter, or you'll see 8.5 by 11, or you'll see A4 or whatever. But generally, try to call sizes width by height, right? So we're gonna pull this flare here. No, I don't know who did it, and that's cool. If anyone in here did this is actually one that I actually think is a good, it's actually a good place to start. It's a good place to be, right? And I'll tell you a few reasons why. Now, when you're doing flares, usually a flare is being used to communicate some kind of message, right? You're either telling someone where they need to be, what time they need to get there, what the event is going to be about, and if there's anything that you are going to be getting out of the event, right? As an attendee or something. So here we already have, we can see very clearly the things that are important here. They have, for the feel of the type of event, you know, they say it's let us pray for our students. And straight off the bat, you see a student praying. Now this is basic, right? So from the time you look at this image, you think, okay, this is clearly some kind of religious flare. This is something to do with religion, something to do with spirituality. This young girl is praying. So already your imagery is casting an image, no pun intended. It's already telling you a bit about what you can expect to see on this flare. What I also like about this is that, you know, we read from left to right. So straight off the bat, you see this on the left, let us pray for our students. And then it keeps coming down with the text. This is a very, very clear representation of how you can use fonts and imagery and the space that you're working with to communicate your message in the clearest way. Now, branding is a big deal to me. So straight off the bat, you have the Tunapuna Tacarigua, if I said that right, Tacarigua, right. Tacarigua logo at the top. Very clear, very distinct. Something I always like to see is that logos can be in full color, all black, or all white. Now, can you see what's going on here? I'm purposely zooming in here to show you what I was talking about before. You see these? These are pixels. Now, when this was designed, it would have been, or at least I think it would have been a vector-based thing. So if I was zooming in, that wouldn't happen. But it's been saved out or exported, and now you can see it as a JPEG. And it was built to be seen at a particular size. So from the time you go beyond where it's supposed to be used, that's what's going to happen, right? But no doubt this is probably something for social media because it's a square. So I mean, I'm thinking probably Instagram, you'd be viewing it on your device. So it doesn't need to be huge, like if it was printed on a billboard or something like that, right? Now, there are all kinds of sizes that you can save things out at. If that's something that you guys want to know about as well, I can go into that later, but that's a bit after, right? Now, something that I'm going to do for you to just show you the difference. I don't know the fonts that were used here, but because I've been doing this so long, I'm just going to take a gamble, right? You can still see my screen, right? Yeah, cool. So I'm going to try to rebuild a part of this. Now, I don't have that logo, so we'll just skip that part. So I'm just going to take a guess for a font that may be close to it. It won't be exact. I'm sure you guys will give me a little slack because I don't know who did it or whatever. So here we go. Now in Canva, they have a lot of fonts. They have things that you guys can pick from. And I'm sure there's something in there that could be similar to this font as well. Do you have eyedropping capabilities in Canva? Anyone? As in, you can pick colors out of designs?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So then what I'm about to do isn't going to be such a foreign thing then. So I'm selecting my lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is just Latin for placeholder text. So there's websites and stuff that you can grab big bunches of text and just drop them in stuff. I think Canva has that as well, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So we're just going to grab our eyedropper tool and we're going to drop that there. And it says, let us pray. It's not too bad, not too bad a font guess. It's not exact, but it's not too bad. All right, so I'm just gonna show you what happens when it is live in the program that you're using. And this part says for our, and I'm basically just copying each line to duplicate it. Let's pray for our students. And then we're gonna do the same eye drop, grab that, grab that. And we're just gonna size that a little bit. It doesn't have to be exact. Just want to give you an idea. So remember what I said, when you zoom in on this, you see that pixelation start to happen. And watch the difference when I zoom in on this. See what's happening? And I can go as far as the program will allow me, like almost infinity, until it won't go anymore. And those edges will still be sharp. So that's the difference between a vector, right? If you hear anybody say vector, it means that the file is non-destructible and it will be sharp regardless of the size.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes, please.
The problem with Canva, obviously, is when you design in Canva, as you said, you export as your PNG or your PDF or your JPEG or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And your resolution is lost. I mean, like, for example, most times we export maybe, the file maybe is like a meg, sometimes maybe 2 megs max.
Yeah.
So obviously your pixels might be maybe 2048 squared. So obviously when you zoom in, you're gonna get that because Canva doesn't allow you to use, you can't do vectors and stuff. It's just, the text they give you, and then you just export it in the image file that you want it to be. So okay. I guess we're gonna always have that problem if you use Canva.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, thanks for that, Randy, because like I said, I don't use Canva. I've dabbled in it on my phones, but in terms of the actual program, I know that the safest format that you'll probably go into, especially if it's not going to be on digital media, would be a PDF.
Yeah, PDF gives you the best. Yeah,
exactly. So a PDF is actually the closest thing to a non-destructible file that you will get, right? In the sense that if someone sends me a PDF, say I'm a printer, right? If someone sends me a PDF, I can actually open a PDF in my native program and it can actually be live, right? Just depends on how you saved it out in Canva. So, Randy, I don't know if you guys have an option where in exporting from Canva, or anyone for that matter, in exporting from Canva, on that PDF option, can anyone tell me what they see when you're actually exporting out of Canva to PDF?
When you're asking what do we see, what do you mean exactly?
Okay, so for instance, I'll just show you quickly. I will actually save out this little bit of text here. And basically I want to know what dialog box comes up, if any. Let me drop this on my desktop. Right, so with my program, I get options on how I want to save that PDF, right? So do you see anything like this come up when you're doing your export, where you can actually choose high quality, small quality, print, anything like that?
Well, it's usually just, when you export it in PDF, it's usually just either high quality or low quality. With
Okay.
other files like PNG, you will get, if you pay for it, you can take your bar up to increase the resolution, to a certain level. Of course, if you're using the free version, you can't go very far with it. But so the options are limited, but you can still get high quality. So I think for what we do, we get the quality that we need. And I think you mentioned earlier, because most of our things is for social media, WhatsApp is nothing we're doing at a big level. We're not even printing. So it gives us the quality that we need.
Yeah, and I think at the bare minimum, the free version of Canva should have the option of a PDF to print, say like a letter size thing, like if you were, like your regular computer size paper.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, they should definitely, because that's one of the major reasons people use that kind of stuff too. So, okay, well, knowing that helps me a lot, because I would be able to kind of avoid mentioning certain things, since you guys may not even have access to it. So thank you so much for that. But I did really want to show you the difference between the pixels and the vectors, because that will help you to avoid some pitfalls. Even if someone sends you stuff, you know what I mean? You'll be able to recognize when something is sharper or when something starts to get pixelated. Thankfully, if you're using it mostly for, I guess, your social media, and maybe even on your, do you guys like use it on screen projectors in the church or anything like that, like for your multimedia?
With thumbnails, flyers, big screens. It's been a while since we use a big screen.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay, yeah. Well, Corona and everything kind of stops you from being in that atmosphere anyway. So yeah, you should be good to go with that. All right, so I will continue with the critique for this one here. A couple other things that I wanted to mention about this. There are, I don't know how many fonts you guys can count on this. Can you guys count the amount of fonts on this? Even though there are different sizes and different colors, there's pretty much 2 fonts outside of the logo. Ignore the logo, but there's pretty much 2 fonts on this flyer, right? And all of the fonts that are used in a way that you can read everything very, very clearly, very easily. Now, I know some people have a preference for whether things are in all caps or in lowercase, caps case, that kind of stuff, case sensitive. But in this particular instance, it is actually being used in a pretty good way. Because if you're going to use all caps and you're going to use bold fonts, you always want to try to use less text. So these are what you will call a header font, right? Header font meaning titles, big. You want to see it, bam, it's right there. This is the kind of font that you would see on a billboard outside, because you can spot it quickly, especially if you're driving by, that kind of stuff. It's a very practically using font, right? And then they basically just come down, they have the use of some icons or elements as it might be in Canva. So instead of using words, sometimes you can use an element to cut out some of the text. So let us pray for our students, and quick tips for special guests for all students, primary, secondary, tertiary, Monday, 20th, blah, 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 blah. No, the only thing I will caution you on here is where this gets a little close to this. You always want to try to give your text breathing room between imagery or even like the edge. So the distance that this is from the edge, that's great. When you get here, sometimes it might be better to kind of manipulate your image if you can, and give your text some breathing room. You don't really want things to be too close together, unless that is what you're doing on purpose. But here, it looks like it was just something that happened. I could be wrong, but that's what I get. And then obviously they have the Zoom stuff, and I guess that's the password. Once again, using elements and using icons, because images can convey 1,000 words. We know this very well not to be the Zoom logo. So people can automatically see, okay, well, this is the This is the link to your Zoom, and this is the key or the password to Zoom. So it's all pretty brilliant and a clever way to give your message across to people quickly, right? Now I'm going to pull another flare. Oh.
So you think that this was pretty well done?
Yeah. When I first started, I was saying that I would pull only ones that I could use as a benchmark.
Right. You don't know. We don't know who did this. So
no, we don't know.
Right, Faith. We don't know. I was like, Pastor Dixon, who did this? All right, cool.
Well done to the designer. Whoever the designer may be.
Lynelle, you remember he specializes in D words. So Dixon, designer, sorry, let me go. I
get stay with that one. I get stay with that one.
Let me stop right here.
Because I want him to speak to me when he comes back to Barbados at some point. So I can just continue, right? So whoever the artist was, just take note of that whole thing with text coming close to imagery, right? Just take note of that part. So anyhow, I'm going to move forward. That was 40 minutes. Oh, sorry. One thing that I wanted to mention, primary, secondary, tertiary text. Your text has importance levels. So whatever your title is, the same way how you read a newspaper and you see the headers, and then you see your body copy, which is usually, you know, the little columns and everything. And then you might see certain things pulled out. You might see a sticker saying sale now, or you might see, you know what I mean? Different things that you want people to spot quickly. So it was done well in this case too, because your title is here, and then your subtitle is here, and then this would be your body copy down here. Thankfully, this wasn't a lot of text. So the teacher, let me ask a question, please. Away from that one. Mm-hmm.
You spoke about fonts just now and about using what is your, how do we deal with multiple fonts? Because obviously you said this is one font, of course they're just different sizes.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about fonts, like what's the rule of fonts and that kind of stuff? Are you going to get to?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get to that.
Okay.
I don't have a choice
because I know you mentioned it earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to get to that because some of the other options that I have to show you guys are definitely going to bring that up. But I started with this on purpose because, say for instance, you only have one font. That's very unlikely, but say you only have one font, you can still execute a good design, right? You can still execute a good design even if you have only one font. It's just about using what you call a font family, or using it in different sizes or different colors to complement itself. So this is definitely a good example that we can roll with. And just push that off to the side. And I'm gonna drag another one in here. Let's see.
Drum roll.
I'm trying to decide if to go to one that was
follow your heart. You have a lot.
Okay.
Sean, nervous.
Don't be nervous, Sean. Don't be nervous. In Barbados, we say, don't be nervous. Join the youth service. Okay. Let's go with one that has multiple fonts, like you guys were asking about, and see what we can break down there. But I'm going to bring one that actually isn't bad for that purpose. Okay, let's try this one here. And this is on purpose. Now, this is another one that I have here. And when I first saw this one, I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to use this because sometimes people get scared when they only see black and white. So this is actually a pretty well executed flare. Like, say for instance, you had a client, or even you yourself, you had a printer that had hardly any ink. This is a very real thing, right? If you had a printer or something that had very little ink, or if you just didn't want to use much color or any color in your design, this is a good example of where you can go. Now, straight off the bat, you can see that there are at least 2 fonts in this. You got here, and I'm gonna guess that this is probably, actually no, don't let me guess that. Because was this done in Canva as well? Does anyone, Randy, know? Was this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I don't want to, I won't hazard a guess as to the font because there are obviously different fonts in that program. But I do have a font that's similar to this. And it is called Trajan. So let's see if I can get close to this with the keys. That's interesting. And even with the keys. Oh, I see what's happening. With the keys. And we're gonna drop this. Let's see how close I am. Trajan Pro. Not bad, right? Not bad, not bad. Not bad. You guys can clap for your teacher, even though I can't hear you. But you can clap for your teacher. So it's a little different, but yeah. I'll just put that to the side there. Now, with this one, once again, it is very, very clear, very easy to read. And can anyone tell me what you see first? What are the first two things you see when you look at this flyer? If you're muted, remember to unmute.
The piano and the thing with the keys. Those two things jump out at me.
Okay, so you see the piano first, and you see the title of the actual event. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So once again, kind of similar to this flyer over here, right? People are using imagery, or in this case, an actual icon or an element to kind of speak 1,000 words before you even read it. So this is clearly something to do with music, right? And the good thing about a piano though, even though it is a piano, yes, it could be a piano recital, but it could also be something else. It could be an orchestra, it could be a band, it could be anything that uses a piano, but basically, you know, it's musical. So if you want something musical to go to at an event, you know, okay, well, hey, let's continue reading this flyer. So you come down and you can see a lot of people obviously use that whole thing where you see the title of the organization, presents. That's like a standard introductory term, you know what I mean? And it's pretty clear in this case. So Tacarigua SDA Church presents, and you come down here, bam, huge, an evening with keys. Yay! Who's my host? Sherilyn Legal. I hope I said that name right. Sherilyn Legal. And so the host now is smaller, but then when you get to the date and you get to the location, it's bigger. Why? Because that's important information. Not to say that your host isn't an important person, but in terms of the directing of your, because okay, as a designer, you're kind of like a conductor in an orchestra. Since I made reference to that before, you're kind of a conductor. So you tell people based on where you place things and how you place things, you tell people how to read your artwork. Piano first, evening second, Sunday, 11th April 2020, and where. Those are the main things you want people to see on this design. Everything else, yeah, you get there eventually. Featured artists, and you see all the people there, all the different artists there. And then obviously you have your branding, you got your logos and stuff like that. People tend to put logos down to the bottom or up at the top, those kind of things, because they're like finishing elements, right? So this is a simple but pretty clean way to execute your flyer, right? Something else too is that I would have gotten an impression because one, it's in black, right? And two, because of the types of fonts that are being used. Here we see, have you ever heard the term sans serif or serif before? Okay, great. So if I point at a font, you should be able to tell me which one it is. What's this font? Anybody? Would this be serif or sans serif? If you, I mean, it's okay. Just holler a guess.
Serif.
Okay, great. Now, do you know the reason that it's called serif, Sean?
Can you repeat the question, Lynn, please?
I was just saying, because I asked if anyone has heard of serif or sans serif fonts before, and they said yes. So I was just saying, can you actually tell me what this one is? And I pointed at An Evening with the Keys. So Sean was saying that it's a serif. I'm asking, what do you mean? An Evening with the Keys? An Evening with the Keys, he was saying that it's serif. So I was asking him if he knows why it's a serif font.
Just guess. You just guess, because it's...
Oh, he guessed, that's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Sean, can you unmute yourself, please? Defend yourself, sir.
If I say something, then the firing squad is activated. I will not say anymore. I'm sorry.
But you're not the firing squad, or you're not at risk from the firing squad.
He'll send anyway. Well,
Just
sans in French is without, right? So I'm
correct.
You know, so
serif is...
and serif is not French, I guess, but I mean, part of it is, I guess, but sans serif means without serif.
Yes, that's basically what it means, without serif.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor.
So,
Lynelle just justified me. Thank you. I'll be here all evening.
But this isn't serif though. This font isn't serif.
Yes, this font is serif. And Evening with the Keys is a serif font.
Very good, Sean.
So I'll just tell you quickly the reason that it's called a serif font, and you will know other ones when I explain this. These little tails that you see here, right? These are actually called serifs. And any font that you see that has those, and they don't always look the same. Sometimes they're straighter, sometimes they're thicker, sometimes they go off into a point like this, and sometimes they actually form a box. But anytime you see a tail, that's called a serif.
But teachers, serif fonts are, I thought serif fonts were usually the curlier fonts.
No, that's
as long as it has a tail, it is a serif font.
No, what you're calling a curly font is actually called a script font. So script fonts are a different family altogether in the categories of fonts. So you have sans serif, which are without tails or without serifs, and that's usually here. Really, it is very clean cut. You will see things like Arial, things like Futura, Gotham, things like that. Those are sans serif. And then you get here where you get things like this, Times Roman, Caslon, all of these fonts, they fall into the serif family. Now, all of these fonts carry a feeling, right? So that's where you use them in certain places and in certain ways. On this flyer, I immediately got the impression that this event was classy, or it was, you know, something a bit more sophisticated.
It's called stush.
Right, there you go. I didn't know y'all use that word in Trinidad too. So yeah, definitely, it could have been a stush event. But yeah, so sometimes when you see things like this, where An Evening with the Keys, I mean, even the name of the event sounds, you know what I mean? That you probably shouldn't come in sandals and short pants. That's basically what I'm trying to say, right? So fonts are a good way to kind of help people with the dress code as well, if you want to be that way. And then sans serifs are good at supporting serifs, all right? Now, there are cases where you can actually use a serif font for the entire piece of artwork. But if you want things to actually have a focal point, like your header and your subheader and stuff like that, using your serif, which is in this case, can actually help to give you that message, and then your supporting information, or like in movies where you have supporting actors, can come in as a sans serif font. A sans serif font is a good supporting actor or actress, right? So this layout, you can see the whole thing is actually centered, which is not a problem because it's equidistant. So the space from this point to this point, and the space from this point to this point, it's basically the same, and that goes on. And that gives you space then when your text is centered and you're coming down like this, then you got some free space. So this was thought out. I can look at this and I can see that this was thought out. Even if the person didn't actually think it out and it was a fluke, then it was a good fluke.
The person thought it out. The person thought it out.
Okay.
I know the person.
Oh, okay.
Lynelle, I think it was done sans thought.
Oh my God. You know what? That was actually clever.
That's clever. Equivalent to Stan Sean.
But we can't do this course without Sean right now. So we can just, we can do Sean and not Stan Sean. Right? Cool.
Amen, sister.
I hope everybody else that I can't see or hear is fine. Feel free to drop a message in the chat if there's anything that you do not understand, or if you have a question about something you particularly wanted to understand. Feel free to do that. Okay, cool. Wait, there actually were messages in the chat. That's interesting. Okay, we had Alvita saying Adobe is awesome. It sure is. Alvita, do you use Adobe? Is Alvita still here? I don't know if Alvita is still here, but if you do, you can shout me. Let me keep this chat window open. I didn't realize I was missing stuff all that time. Cool. All right, so we're going to move on and we're going to try using another flyer. Let's put this over here. No, I'm going to go with something that was not necessarily executed that well. And anyways, hi. Someone said something just now.
I said drum roll.
Oh, I thought I heard a female voice actually. So that's why I asked.
Apparently it was.
I am so done. I am done. Y'all keep this rivalry out of my class. I will put both of you all at separate corners. Okay, good. To think that Randy is in here and he was a teacher. Yo, like, I'm not gonna say anything else. He's being very, very bad behaved in my class. We can continue though. All right, so we're gonna post something on it. I mean, hey, sorry guys, if someone in here has done this, just take it as a learning shot and we can move forward, right? Don't hate the messenger. All right, cool.
Like everybody nervous now.
This is all part of it. Listen, when it was learning, y'all. I did some stuff.
Sure, like I hope it's not one of mine. I hope it's not one of mine.
I'm just gonna drop this out.
It may be one of mine. I don't know.
I am going to pull. Wow. All right.
You got so many bad ones, Lynelle, you don't know which one to pull.
In a short answer, kind of yeah, but
Lynelle, it's a small, unusual crowd to do it. Do whatever you want. The embarrassment is limited. We just won't post the recording.
No embarrassment though. No embarrassment. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, this is part of getting better. So if you really do want to get better, you know what I mean? Just listen and put it to use. That's like the most easy way to tell you. So let's drag this one here. Not drag as in drag, as in insult, but I mean drag it over. Let's drag this one over here.
I mean, sorry. Let me mute my mic. Sorry.
Yes, please mute your mic, sir. Please and thanks. So now, I want to break this down bit by bit, right? And there are a number of things in this that actually I'm kind of glad that this is in existence for this class, because it may be as a result of common misconceptions, right? And just some things that may need clearing up. So I'm gonna ask you guys, based on everything that we did before with the previous two flyers, remember we were talking about what a flyer does. It communicates where you need to be, what the event is, time you need to get there, that kind of stuff. And in the other two, you saw certain things straight off the bat. This is my question. When you look at this, what do you see first? Anyone?
I see Jacob. and of the Bible.
So you see Jacob and, oh, of the Bible. Okay. Anybody else sees anything first off as soon as they pulled it up?
I see a need for training.
Well, that copy is not on the flyer, but fair enough, fair enough. I will what month are you born in, by the way? I just have to ask that.
Was that?
What month are you born in?
December.
Okay, cool.
It's not September, Lynelle. He missed it.
No. It's not May. So I can't be blamed for the troublemaking. Great. So we can carry on. All right. So Faith said she saw Jacob and she saw of the Bible. Now, in my opinion, and this is only because let me see, no one else said anything. So I'll just go with Faith's answer for right now. Those two things are not what you want to see first, because they don't tell you much about the event. They don't tell you where you're supposed to be, what time you're supposed to get there, that kind of stuff, right? Now, in design, sorry, Faith, your hand's raised? Your hand was raised, Faith, or are you just propping? Faith, can you hear me? Faith?
No, my internet is having problems.
Oh, okay. All right, I hope it sorts out itself soon. All right, cool. So in design, we always like to say, like I mentioned before, there's an order in how things should be done, right? And you as the designer or the person laying it out, you have the power in your hands to deliberately decide the hierarchy of what people are going to know first, second, third, whatever else. Everything on this flyer, for starters, is huge. So your eyes don't rest anywhere in particular, right? So if you study, okay, now let me ask a question. If you guys in a WhatsApp chat or on Twitter or anything like that, and you see someone typing in, like, everything is in all caps and everything is there, do you get the impression the person is shouting at you? Right. So for starters, I'm very different to this one, because even though this one was in caps too, it didn't feel aggressive. It didn't feel like the person was shouting at me because of how it's laid out, because of the colors that I use. They work with the image, right? They work with each other. So it doesn't look like anyone is quarreling on the flyer itself. You get what I mean?
Could the design express the character of the designer?
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I don't know what you're getting at. But no, it does not necessarily say that. I mean, I don't know what a flyer would look like if somebody like Hitler was to do it. I don't know, maybe, but but in this case, no, I don't really think it's necessarily a reflection of the designer.
Lynelle,
Yes, sir.
I know you're not aware, but please choose your words and names wisely. Some of the things you've just said are very contextual.
Oh wow.
Just
Okay,
making it clear,
okay.
not with me, okay? Just making that clear, it's not with me.
Okay. I'll try to be aware but not aware, because I definitely am not aware. I'll just apologize in advance for anyone that is Hitler's cousin. You know, I'm sorry for that. But we can move on. So one of my biggest issues with the layout of this one is that everyone is screaming for attention. So it's like, like they're fighting with each other. And it's the same type of space as the others, because if you look at this one here, you know what I mean? It's the same type of orientation, a more vertical rectangle, but nothing is fighting here. Everything here falls in place. With this one, everyone is kind of like trying to get your attention. So first thing that I would say is Tacarigua AY department presents. This doesn't have to be in the hierarchy in a high place, right? It doesn't have to be in a high place in the hierarchy. It's kind of like one of those side notes. We're just telling you, just by the way, this is who is presenting this event, but it's in no way the major information. It's one of those things that people can know, right? But it doesn't need to be at the head of the line. So this straight off would have given it a bit more breathing room. All right. So I didn't destroy the flyer. I just literally cropped that out. Sorry to anybody. And here we have a slight difference already, right? Heroes and villains of the Bible. Now that is what you see at the top. Now, I don't know if heroes and villains was a logo, like if it's an organization or a youth group, or like the name of the actual, like maybe it was anybody can tell me if this was like an event or concert, an actual video presentation or something?
It's a logo.
Okay, so heroes and villains is for something. It's for an organization, or it's like a TV show?
It's a theme that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So kind of like how there's Avengers, and that's a group of things or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so I don't need to hate on the heroes and villains. If that's something that was designed, I mean, like logo design is a totally different thing. I won't get into that part, but just placement is what we're looking at for right now, right? Heroes and villains of the Bible. The first question I would ask is, are you gonna be showing me other heroes and villains at some point? Or are all of them gonna be from the Bible, always? Can anyone answer that?
The concept was there to basically highlight heroes and villains only from the Bible.
Right, okay. So technically of the Bible is part of this?
Supposed
or
to
that's just contextually to show me that the heroes and villains you're talking about are from the Bible?
I'm not sure how to answer that. It was I guess it was placed there to emphasize that we're restricting the theme towards only persons in the Bible. That's probably most I could say.
Okay, cool. All right. So basically, the reason I ask all those questions, and these are things that if people see it, they're going to be wondering, I guess. Well, sorry, from a design perspective, these are things that I wonder, because I guess I can't take myself out of the design world. But I will ask, what is the importance of each thing and the reason that it is so huge in front of me? So heroes and villains, this of the Bible could once again have been subtext, much smaller in here. So let's see this part here. Just gonna do a little editing. This file is not really a live file that I can manipulate stuff, so I'm just going to try to kind of do it in a quick way to show you. So I'm just basically dropping so that I can create a gradient based on what's going on above and below, because you can see there's blue up there and then there's white down here. So that's all I'm doing. You don't really need to be too concerned with that part. So heroes and villains, and then you have of the Bible. Say for instance, now we chose a simpler font. All right. Let's go with, okay, we won't use any of the fonts that are down here. Let's see if we can actually venture back to something simpler, right? We're gonna grab a sans serif font. Remember I told you sans serif fonts are good supporting actors, right? So if you want the other font to be the leading actor, then you can use a sans serif font to kind of just support that person. So we're gonna choose something standard. What's a sans font that would be in let's use, I think Proxima is in there, you know. Is Proxima in there? Y'all know a font called Proxima in Canva?
Nope.
Okay. Oh, no mind. It's just a regular sans serif font, right? Very, very simple sans serif font. So we're gonna just take this, rest it over here, so we can see the other one, right? And so we have of the Bible. We're gonna center that. We're gonna drop it there. And we can just put this here. Now, at this point, you have a whole set of colors. So as a supporting actress or a supporting actor, you can literally pull from the colors that are already in the leading role, if you get me, right? So remembering heroes and villains is your theme, and it happens to have a brand of its own. So everything else, everybody else should support your header. You get me? So we got blue, we got red, we got gold, we got all kinds of stuff going on in here. We're gonna choose a color. We can go blue, we can go red. No, obviously colors also convey feelings, not just fonts. So if you wanna say something like of the Bible, over here, it was a gray, and gray is obviously still represented in here. So let's keep that. Let's go gray, right? Something that I like to do, and it's actually, I think you can do it in Canva, where there's something called kerning. You guys know that term? It basically means the spaces in between the letters, where you can increase the spacing between the letters. So you can do stuff like that, right? In Canva? I think you can. You can always feel free to tell me if you can. But yeah, so you have your supporting actor, right? Now, from looking at the rest of the flyer, I'm guessing that the star of tonight's show is Jacob. And I'm guessing that a couple of things were happening here when this person thought about Jacob. You don't have to tell me if I'm wrong, but these are just the feelings I'm getting from the flyer itself, right? Jacob was a trickster, right? At least that's what his name meant. And so the font makes me feel like Jacob was a little sketchy. Maybe that could have been what they were trying to say. Maybe, I don't know. But because of the type of font that was chosen, right? This is the feeling that I'm getting. So is that something that you think is necessary? Anybody? Do you think it's necessary for the font that is used for the star of the show to convey the type of person that it is that you're talking about? Anybody? Anybody? Oh, I supposed to unmute people or?
I actually think so.
Okay, so you're in favor of the person, the character, being personified in their font.
I did. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Right. So you were saying that you agree that you think that the character should be personified in the font. Okay, cool. Now, whereas that is an option, the other question that you have to ask yourself is, does it benefit the layout that you're working with? Right? Because you know in the Bible it says all things are, but everything isn't expedient. You understand what I mean? So it's because you can do everything doesn't mean that you should, if you're trying to communicate a certain message and you want to do it clearly. So in this case, if you wanted to say, hey, the star of tonight's show is Jacob, you still can do that. It just needs to be represented in the hierarchy in a way that doesn't jeopardize the rest of the brand, right? So heroes and villains right here is kind of like a superhero thing. At least that's the feeling that I get. So like Batman, Superman, Avengers, DC, all that kind of stuff. That's the feeling that I get. If you are unsure how that type of brand is actually communicated, one of the best things to do is always to go to the Oracle, AKA Google. All right? Look at other brand posters for things that are superhero based, for things that are character based, for things that are movie based, if that was the feeling that you were trying to get here, and look at how movie posters flow. That definitely is something that helped me a lot. And that's why we believe in benchmarks, because benchmarks, even if it's from a client to service provider direction, what I always tell my clients is, hey, I don't know necessarily if you're seeing something in your mind already, but shoot me some benchmarks. Just go Pinterest, go Google, go anywhere and see if you see something that reflects the feeling you're trying to portray. And emphasis on this next point, look in reputable places. You understand? So don't just go Google and search all flares. Go to Google and search for the quote unquote money makers, things that draw people. So the reason you will keep hearing me say Avengers is because I got that feeling when I saw heroes and villains. I felt like this person is trying to make me feel like, yo, this is like a character-based movie type thing, right? So going with that feeling, just literally go on Google, type in Avengers, type in DC Comics, type in those kind of things, and you can actually see a little bit better. Because remember, even though you're designing something, your brain doesn't necessarily have all the ideas. So sometimes you need to pump some more information in. And I always tell people, the best you can be at anything is always based on your research. So even as designers, you're dealing with pictures and you're dealing with fonts and you're dealing with colors, but it's also based on research. Make sure you do some research into the concept that you're trying to build. So that's basically what I would say for this one. Jacob, and even like the picture here, like, okay, so for instance, the picture here is folks pulling on a, I guess it's like a tug of war type thing, or holding it, because I'm seeing hold. I'm seeing hold there. So there's just a lot. It's just a lot for my brain. It's a lot for me to try to figure out when the only important thing, really and truly, heroes and villains of the Bible. Tonight we're featuring Jacob. Come on Sabbath, May 8th, 4 p.m. on Zoom. That's all I really need to know. I don't need to know anything else, right? Everything else is kind of just kind of cluttering the workspace, which jeopardizes the layout, and then it makes your layout not be as clean, right? If I could literally have done this, I may surprise some people here, but that's okay. If I could have done this, there are just some basic things that I would have done a bit differently, just to kind of show you. Obviously, I don't have, it's one of the things that that Illustrator can do, and I don't think Canva can, but one of the things that Illustrator can do is something called light tracing. And all light tracing really is kind of redrawing. It redraws it, right? It makes it into something that I can actually use as if I was the person designing it, right? It doesn't always come out the cleanest if it is a distorted file, but just for the purpose of what I'm showing you guys here today, I will do it and see if I can get something out of it. Just to show you how the whole thing could have been done a little differently, right? So what I'm trying to do here is actually pull out just the logo, right? I just want to pull that out so I can use it how I want to use it. Apologies if I am bastardizing anything. That's actually a real term in designerdom. I just want to pull this out so that I can kind of show what could be possible with this. Randy, keep me, I looking at the time and stuff, but keep me.
Nah, you're cool, Lynn, just the way you gotta do.
All right, cool. Just want to make sure I get certain things across.
Yeah, you good.
Yeah. Here we have heroes and villains. Da, 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 da. Sorry, that's a musician in me. I'm sorry. I'm also really corny, so forgive me. Right, so we got heroes and villains. What I'm gonna do right now is what I just suggested to you guys. I'm gonna jump on to Google here for a second. Over this side. Let's go Avengers movie poster. Ooh, I like it already. Let's find one that could be along similar things. And also looking for past artwork can be fun too, because it really can spark your creativity in terms of opening up your mind, yeah? So don't ever feel away about it. Let's try this one right here. Avengers is actually one of my favorite movies too. So here we have an Avengers poster. Any DC fans in here? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Cool. Anybody noticing any similarities with these colors? Anyone? Anyone see any reds, any blues, any golds?
The reds and the blues,
Yeah, those are superhero colors. Well, I should say good superhero colors, because then you got people like my guy Batman, who isn't really a superhero anyway, and that's also DC. But you got the darker characters as well. But when you see like the characters that everybody loves, they use colors like red, Iron Man, blue, Captain America, Thor with his armor, Spider-Man, red, you know what I mean? And then you got the other characters and stuff like that. But I just thought I would bring that up. There's actually similarities here with the feeling. So you got heroes and villains, and you can even see here how they're doing this. Marvel, you got your logo, you got your branding. Avengers, you got your title. So that's basically what this was, right? And then you got your subtext. Which movie is this? Infinity Wars. So straight off the bat, you know what this poster is about. This is about this particular movie. Now, the good thing about movie posters, and this is one that doesn't have a lot of text, so let me grab one that actually does.
So Lynn, while you're doing this, based on what I'm seeing here, you just said Marvel, which is your brand, Avengers, and then Infinity War is obviously this particular
installment.
The actual movie. This movie is Infinity War. Yeah. So you say that since Heroes and Villains was I think was a series that was being done, Jacob was the emphasis. You could have had Jacob under Heroes and Villains. Yes. As how they have Infinity War here.
Yes, you definitely can. But don't forget, there's a subtext already, because an important part of the information is this guy right here.
Right, of the Bible, right?
Exactly. So now here's a case now where you can actually decide to choose a font based on what is in the heroes and villains. So maybe the person that did this had a font. So maybe heroes and villains is a particular font, right? Say, I don't know. Let's use my same Bebas here. A kind of tall font, right? If you want to keep that feeling going. And then now you start to pull certain elements. So let's go instead of gray, let's go with the blue. All right? And then you can see like there's a line and an and another line in here, right? All these are things that you can use to separate text in a cool way. So you could even do a line under here to kind of close off the whole thing. And I mean, there's certain things that as a designer you pick up from, again, looking at different posters and seeing the way that people execute certain things. Even in Avengers, do you see these lines? So these lines kind of help to separate the text, separate your messaging. Even though you have everything close and snug together, these lines in here help you to separate your text.
So you know that it is not Avengers Infinity War, but it's Avengers.
No, it's Avengers Infinity War.
Right. It's not one reading.
Exactly. So you could see Avengers Endgame, or you could see Avengers Ultron, right? But for this one is Avengers Infinity War. It's the same way you could have heroes and villains of the Bible, and you could drop, you know what I mean? You could do something like that. And it's clean and it works together. So that's what I'm saying. It's not quarreling with they're not quarreling with each other. It's like they're family to each other. So heroes and villains, subtext of the Bible. Then we got our main guy, Jacob, the supplanter. Such an interesting word. We got Jacob in here, all right? Now, here's where we can actually go and decide now, we want to keep the same color, we want to keep the same font. Maybe we want to keep the same font, but we want to change the color. Now, I can choose this color here. Anybody know why? Anybody know why I chose the color, Jacob? I mean, the color red. Someone was saying.
Because it normally implies like not good stuff.
Right, like okay, cool.
Because
cool.
the red in the logo is villains and blue is heroes. So
exactly. There you go. There you go. So you can also use your colors to tell your story. All right. So like I said, it's just a simple representation of you know where you could go. It's not even saying that this is how I would do it, but in a way, yeah. Now I see on this one here, on the original one, there was like colors in the background and imagery and that kind of stuff. There's nothing saying you can't use imagery, but your imagery has to work for you. And you have to remember that there's something called negative spaces that you can use within your imagery. Like the picture at the back can't be busier than what you're trying to say. You know what I mean? The picture at the back can't scream harder than heroes and villains. Heroes and villains is your baseline. Everybody else either needs to fall in line with heroes and villains or don't use it, right? So we can keep heroes and villains here. Now, positioning on the page is really dependent on the other information that you have to say. Obviously with this text was all that was on here. And the way that they design a number of their things is that their characters tell the story around their text, right? Now, obviously in this, you don't necessarily have a character, but you have a theme that carries your feeling. So that's why this needs to be at the top of the hierarchy. So this one originally said Tacarigua. So this is where you get a place now for this supporting text. We can build from heroes and villains and come out and go to the top and go to the bottom. So Tacarigua, let me make sure I spell this right. Tacarigua, what was it? AY department, and then presents, right? This text should in no way be more important than your superhero. So that may look small, but that's because it needs to be, all right? I'm gonna drop just a little background behind here based on what you guys already had, which was like a sky blue type thing. Let's see if I can pull that gradient. All I'm doing here is using a white to blue gradient. I think you can do gradients in Canva as well, right? Yeah. So just using a white to blue gradient, circular gradient with white in the center, right? And I'm purposely putting the white behind this, the theme, behind the logo, right? And what you can do is that when you're going in to adjust your colors and you darken your blue, you'll see exactly what happens. So you see the blue gets darker, but the white stays in the middle based on where you have your focal point, because that's what a gradient does. A circle, a radial gradient will put the focal point of your colors wherever that point there is. Right, so if we move from here now, we keep Jacob here for now. What other text do we have here? We will not reuse the hold because to me, it doesn't really convey a party message, right? It's not really a pertinent party message. So what's the next most important thing? You need people to know when and what time and where. When, what time, where. Sabbath, May, you got that information there. Sabbath, May 8. A little rule of thumb, when the number for dates come after the month, you actually don't use the TH. It's actually something I learned when I was, I don't know what year it was, so that's not important. But if the number comes, sorry, if the number comes before the month, then you say 8th. All right, that's a little rule of thumb. So whichever it is. After, no TH, before, TH. And then we got, you don't even necessarily have to say at 4 p.m. People can just see a time and know that that's the time. So a cool little trick that I like to do, and this is literally just a preference. As you design, you'll develop little quirks of your own. This is just something I like to do because it communicates it very, very quickly. And your time, you can always, you know, manipulate the sizes and stuff like that to keep the hierarchy going. Now, in a case like this, you see now I'm running into a problem because I don't want this to be bigger than them. So what you can do, always feel free to play around with your stuff, play around with your layouts, all right? Create your own hierarchy, but make sure that what is important stays important. You get me? Hope I'm not losing anybody. Not seeing anyone say anything in the chat. So I'm gonna assume that we're good. All right. And here now, guess what color I'm gonna use? The gray. Why? Because it's important, but it's not as important as knowing who the event is about. So the same way how I use gray for Tacarigua, I use gray for this. And the good thing about this now is that, like I said, you can mess around with your layouts. Sabbath, May 8th, the time, you got the day, you got the date, you got the time. You can mess around with your colors and see if there's something that sticks out more, because there are a number of colors in here. Oh, you never want to put a light color on a light background. You never want to put a dark color on a dark background. Nobody can see it. So always look for that contrast. Light background, darker font. Darker background, lighter font. So even as you're cycling through here and I drop in things, grab something that you can see. And for now, you can just leave that there. Actually, I think the blue might be kind of cool for that, just because it's getting closer to that. Right. Now, I don't have any villains to put in here like how Avengers does. So that's pretty much thing. The Zoom logo, well, this is just a cool thing that I'm gonna do because I can in here, but that's not necessarily something that you guys can do. So don't even worry about that. I'm just literally doing this because I wanted to have the logo there. It's a quick thing. You got your Zoom logo that everybody knows. Actually, I think it's the other way around. And then they actually pulled the Zoom logo. So you can do that too. Feel free to do that too. If you have access to the actual Zoom logo, you can feel free to do that too. But yeah, so I know that that's probably looking a little plain, but that's only because it doesn't have an image in the background. Whatever image you choose, just make sure that it has that space, even if it is something that has the imagery going around it. Where do you guys usually get your imagery from?
The University of Google.
Okay, I figured as much. No, when you're searching for your images on Google, how do you determine if it's a good quality or not?
I can check the resolutions on it.
What's the question?
I was asking, in searching for images on Google, how do you guys check your resolutions to know if it's a good quality to use in your artwork or not?
Oh, well, obviously Google gives you the option to go to tools and look for large, or, you know, you can actually plug in the pixels that.
Right. Right. Okay, cool. Well, that's great. That's definitely great.
Using Canva, well, obviously Canva gives you high quality images because, you know, I pay for the account, so you get the high quality images.
Okay.
And there's some other sites, there's some other free stock image sites as well that we get images from.
Right. Okay, cool. So I was going to mention that because if you're going to be using Imagery, getting it off of Google can be okay if you're not using it for profit purposes, but it's always something that you have to be careful with when it comes to rights and all that kind of stuff.
The copyright stuff.
Exactly. So you can't just be pulling things, especially if people's pictures are in them, or, you know, that kind of stuff. As a designer, you have to be conscious of that, because you could be doing something for money at some point, and you don't ever want to put yourself in a problem where you or your client or your church or anyone has to come under fire from someone saying, hey, but I did that, I took that picture, or I designed that background and no one asked my permission to use it, right? So just always be conscious of that. There are stock sites like Randy was saying, and I'm sure that he can show you guys some of those as well. But there's a lot of them. You can literally type in royalty-free images, royalty-free video, royalty-free vectors, all that kind of stuff, and Canva will still allow you to use them. So that's something that you guys can definitely break down more, you know what I mean, at some point. So yeah, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to go on one of my free sites and see if there's something that I can actually pull to kind of show you what I mean in terms of using this space. And I know I spent a lot of time on this particular flyer, but that's only because I feel like this is where a number of people may struggle, right? Just in terms of things being too busy, or not necessarily knowing how to lay out something that the message is clear, but your poster still looks cool, right? So let's pull something here. Let's pull something based on the content that we're doing here. So it's like comic based, right? It's supposed to give that feeling, superhero movie, comic, that kind of thing. I just found something here that could be kind of cool for that. So just give me a second and I'm gonna pull it in. Now, granted, this story is from the Bible, but obviously we are modern people, so we can allow our concepts to travel further, right? Kind of similar to like how when we do our skits and our plays and dramas and stuff, sometimes we look to take a Bible story and modernize it so that young people can get the concept. I don't know if you guys do that too, but we kind of do that here. Or at least we did before. So I am going to drop in this image and then I'm going to show you. Got my downloads. And I'll explain why I chose this background as well. So I just found this EPS here, right? Just a sporty little background, right? And this is what you call an EPS file. All that really means is a fancy term for a live file, right? I think in Canva you would see things like SVGs. So an SVG will be a vector. Remember what I said about vectors versus pixels. Vectors, you can make it large, you can pull out pieces of it, it's live, you can manipulate it. Whereas an image is just flat, can't really do anything with that unless you're into Photoshop editing. So here we have these guys here. I don't really have a use for them, so I'll delete that. Don't have a use for this, I'll delete that. Got some other elements in here that I don't need, just delete all those. And this isn't to say that you have to use a moon and building shot. It's just literally something I'm gonna try in the background here. Now, the reason that I chose something that was a darker scape is because this has gold in it and brighter colors, right? And I know you might be saying, well, I can't see the text over the blue and stuff like that. That's why we like live images, because we can go in and we can manipulate things. So all of this stuff that we had in blue before, we can drop that in white. Jacob could actually stay in red. You'll see how that goes. I'm gonna put on my trim view so you don't see any of the other stuff right now. Right. I'm gonna drop this. No, obviously, remember I told you guys about negative space. So you can see this picture innately has, let me pull this out. We get all this stuff separated. Slide that over there. This has all these moving parts, right? Which means that I can shift these things. So you create the spaces that you want for your actual piece. Even if I wanted to say, well, hey, I want the moon to be over somewhere else or whatever. I don't know if Canva can do these things, so that's not really important, but I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. You create these spaces for your text to fall. So here we have, remember this text here? Department presents. We are going to make this work for us. So we got a big ball of plain space. We can literally use that to our advantage. Drop that in there like that. We can even left align it. And we could pull our darker blue from here. So now that falls in line with the actual background. And even though you can read it, it still kind of like makes it a piece of the background in a way, which is good because like I said before, that's background information. Then you got your heroes and your villains. We want to keep that and the Bible together. We're gonna come here and we're gonna drop that there. Now, this background behind here kind of busy, you know what I mean? So let's not let that take away from what we're doing. We're literally gonna take out what we want from this background. Well, now what I want is the moon and I want the background. Everybody else can kind of play second fiddle. So you got these buildings and stuff, right? I am going to drop the transparency on that. And obviously you can't necessarily do this in Canva, but it just kind of to give you an example of the type of images you should look for. Don't look for anything that's going to be too busy for you to use. And you see, I just dropped the transparency on all of that. So now your imagery doesn't scream louder than your title. And we can go back and we can just drop that right there. And you can come back out here for this text because it still feels a little out there on its own. So we can even come like this and we can use it in conjunction with the building. We kind of just make any space work. Or if that doesn't work, you can try the other side. Or you can center it and still drop it there because it might work, but now it works in white. So like I said, just you play around with stuff, but you're basically taking principles and bending them, right? You make your design work for what you're trying to say. And as long as your message is being heard, then you're good to go. So that was, I mean, I don't know. You can tell me. You can tell me which one is kind of clearer for you. And obviously, it's a different format and all that kind of stuff. But say, for instance, it was the same format, the same orientation. Oh. Not to cut the logo or anything. Something that I want to say too is that you have to be careful with logos that are extremely wide or extremely tall, because sometimes they can limit you in your layout, right? But that's just a side note for whoever may have think, because now it's like, even though you want that to be the most important thing, because of this wingspan, you can't include it unless you make it smaller than your artboard. So then everything else has to fall under that, if you get what I mean. So yeah. So any questions? Any questions about that, Leo? Any questions about my choices before I move on? So I think we can get in at least one other flare for me to break down.
One question.
Yes.
Why did you move the Takrigwa SDA out of the moon?
Oh, so I moved it out of the moon because it was distracting me that it was not falling in line with the importance of this central layout. So once again, this is a situation where, because you start with your theme, everything else needs to fall in line with this. And this is a centrally based logo, meaning that it starts here, right? It starts here, and then everything else goes out like that. So your information needs to fall in line with the body of that logo, right? If you look at the Avengers thing again, this has a kind of circular feel going to it, where your most important thing is in the middle, and then everybody is built around that. Everybody's built around that. So you won't see text off to the right side over here. You won't see text down to the bottom left, because all your most important information is right here in the middle. You get me? So it's really just a point of determining where on your artboard you want things to be important, and you want people to see them. So they work together. You get me?
Yeah, understood.
Cool. Something else that you will see is that on movie posters, you will see sometimes they will have like a big body of text down to the bottom here, where you will have like the actors and the cinemas and all that kind of stuff. You ever seen movie posters like that, where you will have like text down here in this area, right? So you can have that, or you can have situations where you might see the stars. So for instance, Iron Man is Robert Downey Jr. Thor is Chris Hemsworth, right? So you'll see Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth. You know what I mean? You see the names of the stars up to the top. You've ever seen that before? Yeah. So sometimes you can have that too. But once again, you don't just see one name to the left. They have all of them kind of stacked and working together. Let me see if I can actually. They got like this poster here with all the posters on it. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of small. So let me see how far I can get in. That doesn't work. Click to enlarge. Here we go. I can cheat a little bit here and do a screen grab. See if it's a little better. Right. So here you see. You can't read them obviously because it's off the net. So, but you can see the names up here, right? And then you see that body text down here. But you see Avengers first. And then you see the characters. Avengers, characters, Avengers, characters, Avengers, characters. Ant-Man, that's who it's about, character. You know what I mean? Captain Marvel, Civil War. This is the main event. And if you notice, your main event doesn't have to be in the middle or even on the top. It just needs to be the first thing people see. You get me? So if you have amazing imagery, I can give you an example here. I can bring in another flyer and show you exactly what I mean. This is another flyer from you guys. And I actually know the designer of this one. I'm gonna show you this. This person might look a little familiar to you all. I don't know if you know this guy here. Sporty fella. But yeah, so here we have a month for all seasons, right? And pass it down to the bottom. So you see the title first. You see the character, not meaning that Dixon is a character, but he is anyway, but all respect, right?
He's a character.
He is a character. So you can see the places that these are actually set out isn't necessarily something first, something second, but because of the size, right? You see certain things first. So you see the title and you know it's a crusade. So similarly to how there was heroes and villains, right? Of the Bible. Crusade is like that, of the Bible. It's that subtext that qualifies what you're talking about in your theme. So A Man for All Seasons crusade with the person. Not saying that he is Jacob, like a trickster or anything, but you know who you know who the host is, right? He's not even here. He's not even here. So yeah, so here we go now. Once again, we come into the whole question of what, when. This is more when. This is more what. So the spoken word, special music, instrumentals, knowledge nuggets. And then where. This is where you need to be to see it. And then you have your brand. And here is the main person that's dealing with it. So thankfully, this is a pretty good quality image. And then you also have a background image, but the background image doesn't fight your text. You get what I mean? So this image now, from what I see in it, and this is obviously to do with how you choose your imagery. It's a crusade and it's talking about knowledge and spoken word and all these things. Trees is something that communicates that. Trees actually communicate knowledge. Trees communicate sharing. Why? Because trees bear fruit. Who gets the fruit? All of us. You know what I mean? So design kind of causes you to be a bit deep in your thinking. And sometimes people get it and sometimes they don't, but that's what I get from it. So it's a concept that works for what you're trying to say. You get me? Yeah. So, and then obviously you got your color scheme and stuff like that, and it works for what you're doing. So this is a very good example. Now, this person actually designed this in the same program that I'm using here. So there's a lot more freedom in terms of what they were able to do. But even if you're using just Canva, you can find some really nice images, drop them in your background, and then you can literally just have fun with your text. But make sure that it is clear and people aren't, and when I say people, I mean your fonts and stuff, they're not fighting with each other. So this, in terms of the layout, this in essence is a centrally laid out poster as well. As opposed to this one was a left align layout for your copy, right? Where you have your stuff lining up to the left align as opposed to centered. And then you can even have things that are right aligned. And it's just a matter of how the text works for you. You know what I mean? There is another flyer here, this one here. This is another one that I saw. And this is like simple, clean, very strong image for what you're trying to say. And you actually gave your image a full half of your artboard. So then your text was allowed to breathe on this side on a dark background because you have your white, you have your orange. And if you look at it, all of the colors that are on this side are based on the colors in the image. So it's the same way how I would have chosen colors from Heroes and Villains theme to use as supporting text. So I feel like, you know, it's not difficult to get it. It's just something that takes practice. And like I said, you got to keep looking at things. I like to tell people, keep inspiring yourself, keep educating yourself, keep researching. There is no way that you're going to be able to pull all of these ideas from your own head all of the time. It's not possible. In a world of 7.9 billion people, trust me, there are millions of people out there trying to learn this and trying to create things the same way you are. So instead of, you know, trying to pull everything from yourself, you go on the internet and you try to find inspiration. The same way how for daily living, you know what I mean? We try to find inspiration from the word. We try to find inspiration from stories, from Bible characters, whether we're looking at Jesus himself, or we're looking at Moses, or we're looking at Jacob, or we're looking at Joshua, or you know what I mean? The same way how you're finding that inspiration from other people that have done it before you, design is the same way. You go and you look for things that are trying to communicate the message that you are trying to communicate. And there's a cool saying in design called you steal it and you make it your own. But emphasis on you make it your own. So you're not just taking somebody's artwork, you're using it to inspire you to do something. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything is cyclical, however you want to pronounce it. So you allow the world to influence you, that design world. There's a whole lot of stuff out there. For me personally, I like to look at people like Apple. I like to look at people like even some of our the same movie posters, depending on what type of work I'm doing. Sometimes I have to do work for corporate clients, you know, like the tourism authorities and banks and all these kind of things. That feeling is a totally different feeling to Avengers. You get what I mean? That feeling will be a totally different feeling to doing an evening or a concert night at your church. So you start with what it is that you're doing. What is the event? Who is going to be there? What are you trying to say to them? And then you go onto the internet. You go onto Pinterest, you go onto Google, and you type in whatever event that it is, you type in that, and then you say best designed posters. And you can always start there, right? You can always start there. Put the best designed posters. If you have to do a letterhead for someone, if you have to do a business card for someone, if you have to do a flyer, if you have to do anything, it's all on Google. It's all there just to get that inspiration. And yeah, I mean, then there's always asking questions. Anyone that you know who is actually in the industry or knows people that are in the industry, the same way how Randy asked me to come along and just kind of show you guys some tips. Feel free to ask questions. None of us knows it all. You know what I mean? So always work together. Always, even as you guys have your teams, your tech teams and stuff at church, someone may have seen something that's kind of cool that could inspire you to bring your whole idea, your whole project together. So always remember that when you work together, you get a lot more stuff than you can work smart as opposed to working hard. And that's something that I like to do when I'm designing. So that's pretty much it for me. I don't know if anybody has any questions pertaining to, you know, anything that I would have said or any design elements. You can just hit me up, let me know. You can either say it out loud in the chat or you can drop it say it out loud on video, or you can drop it in the chat. I don't see Randy online, so.
No, he's there. He's there.
I'm here. I just joined back because I had to leave while I was driving on my phone now. This what you said something about this what imagery you have was actually a thumbnail. I don't know if Sean told you that.
This one, the same one?
Actually a thumbnail. This was a thumbnail, yeah.
Okay. But that's actually good because as something that would be small, you can definitely see that quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the image is strong and the text, you will see the text quickly. There were some other flyers too that were a bit challenging, but I feel like I don't need to show you guys all the stuff that I didn't think looked cool to show you the concept of what you need to do and what you don't need to do. You know what I mean? The truth is that there's a lot of amazing design around and there's a lot of bad design around. So it's just about taking the principles of, like I said, communicating the message that you're trying to communicate, and then don't depend just on your brain. Go and see who has done it better, right? Someone actually told me a time that if you are the smartest person in your friends group, you need to have some other friends, because you always need people that you can look to. You always need people that are better than you in your industry so that you can keep getting sharp. You can keep increasing in your knowledge, right? And from the time you realize that you're the best in your group, you can share that information with your group, but always look for more. Always look to sharpen yourself with somebody else that you can ask questions to, right? So Google is that.
Question, Lynn, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't know if you touched on color.
Yeah, I did.
How color? Oh, okay, great, perfect.
But what exactly do you mean in terms of feelings?
With fonts, right? With fonts and color, because I know.
Yeah.
Like when I try my stuff, I try to pull elements like colors from the actual image. If I'm using an image, I try to find colors that kind of match back, so it maintains that kind of vibe and not go too bright. But like, when would it be a good time to use a darker color or brighter color? It all depends on what you're designing.
Yeah, because that's exactly with the same image that I have on my screen right now. That's exactly what I was saying. I was telling them that the dark gray and the white and the orange, all of these colors are colors that you can find in this compass image. So immediately it complements the image that you're doing. And then your fonts also get backing from the picture. The same way that I would have chosen red, blue, gold, gray, dark blue from the heroes and villains, right? To color the text and to color my background. So you would, but like Wes was saying before, you wouldn't put dark text on a dark background and you wouldn't put light text on a light background. Unless, no, there are always exceptions to these rules when it comes to design, because design is about knowing the rules and then breaking them. But until you know the fundamentals and until you know the reason for the fundamentals, it makes it a lot easier not to break those rules. So you kind of, you go with the rules until you know how to break them to communicate your message. Because I'm sure someone in here has seen a black t-shirt with black text, but the black text is always a different material. So you might see the shirt, which is a dull kind of feel material, and then your black text is shiny. So that's when you get into textures now, but that's print. So print and digital, two different things, right? But in the easiest sense, keep it simple. As the people used to say, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. That's what they used to tell us in school. Keep it simple, stupid. Everyone is dumb. Keep it simple. That's what they used to tell us in school, right? Don't go call nobody stupid, but that's what they do in college. So, you know, but yeah. This one here though that I have left up on your screen though, honestly, is a very good example of how you can use your stuff. And even if you only had this image and say you have more space to the top, you could put text up there, or more space to the bottom, you could put text there as well, because the back of the image behind the compass is blurred. And when you have an image that has its own built-in focal point, you use the space around it. You get what I mean? Now, in a case now where you have a lot of text, you wouldn't use an image like this. Because if you have body text, say like it's a newspaper, on a newspaper, you see the main thing is text. But that's because of the medium that the newspaper is. The newspaper is something that people are looking to for information. So the information has to be the whole, that importance that we give to the headlines and to the themes, that body text still needs to be readable. So it always depends on the medium that you're using and where your design is going to end up. If you're doing something for, this is a thumbnail, so you wouldn't have a lot of small text going on in this, because when it gets down to this size, no one can read anything that's super, super small. But if it's going to be on a billboard, then you need to make sure that stuff is big, because you don't want anybody crashing on the highway trying to read a whole set of text. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing too, even outside of Google, you have just day-to-day living. When you're driving on the road, take care when you're driving on the road, but I'm just saying, when you look on the road, you look on the highway, you look on the roads, you look on buildings, you see design all around you. Allow everything to inspire you. So you might not be on a Google page, but you may be at a restaurant. Well, I don't know if you guys can go to restaurants right now. We just forget COVID right now. If you were at a restaurant, you would see inspiration in that same place, right? Down there you guys have KFC. KFC is a worldwide international brand. So you would see certain things, stay constant with them, right? Branding is very important. So if you have logos on a flyer that you're doing, make sure that you can see the logos clearly. Make sure that those get their place on the flyer. They don't need to be a major thing, but they need to be there. The same way how you guys have the keep getting problems with his name, Tacarigua. Right? Tacarigua. Right. Thank you. Yeah, man. And the same way how even here on Randy's thumbnail for Zoom, you have the tuna puna. Why is that always giving me a problem? Takiwaga. You know what it feels like? It feels like a name that you would hear on a Japan animation. So it's giving me problems because it feels like it's another language. But yeah, so you can see the district logo there, and that's clear, right? So yeah, I hope I answered your question, Faith.
Yes, you did.
Sweet. So I don't know if there's anything else anybody else wanted to ask. Checking in the chat too. Yeah, I don't see.
Lynelle, I know you mentioned sans serif supporting serif fonts.
Yeah.
Uh, there are those fonts that are very I guess they may fall into script very like they're like handwriting,
Yes. Yeah.
Edwardian and so forth. How those are when is the best time to use, or when should those be used?
Okay, so those fonts, there are billions of fonts, right?
Right.
So I am cautious with those fonts because one, Edwardian especially, and I'm glad that you brought up Edwardian. There's some fonts that can be dated very quickly. And when I say dated, as in they make your artwork feel like it was done in the 1930s. If you're trying to communicate a message that is more modern, or you're trying to communicate a message to younger demographics, that is not a font to use. But I will say,
Lynn, sorry. So the thing that I sent for the this training session this afternoon, that, and I used the kind of handwriting kind of font there.
Right, I was going to mention handwriting fonts. Yeah.
Was that okay with your name and in that context? And if you can pull it up.
I check in here now. Yeah. Right. So this is probably Moonlight. This is Moonlight. Or Moontime. This is Moontime.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, there's a font called Moontime in Canva that I actually like a lot. Because as a handwriting font, it helps. So you guys would have seen this, right? Now, what has come up these days to replace modern usage of script fonts is handwriting fonts. So if you picture like somebody who's kind of like writing on a paper, right? This I would caution Randy that the split with this white text on top of the dark and lighter background can be a bit problematic. I would have probably kept most of it on the dark, the same way how with my name is on the dark one. So, but that's a simple fix, right? But these handwriting fonts come in very handy in these days because they're kind of in right now as well, right? They're very friendly on the eyes because they feel human. They feel like someone actually wrote them. And feeling human is a big deal right now, right? So they have a nice feel to them. Sometimes you have to be careful and make sure that they're still legible. You know what I mean? That they're still easy to understand when all the letters connect and everything. But this is a good font. So if you have a font that is like this in Canva, then for certain things, say like for instance, if you want to break up, actually, this is a good example for sure because this is using only serif fonts and that. So this is a serif.
What you said just now, this is what?
This is a good example for supporting fonts.
That's what I'm sure Sean heard that. Sean heard that. All right, cool.
This is why I'm trying to get me in trouble later. This is a good example for supporting fonts, not using sans serifs. So come down here and we can see this is a thick, this is what you call a thick serif font. So it's not like the tails are not thin like the other one. Remember the first one that we looked at, the tails were kind of thin. They went off into like points, like literal points off of the edge of the letter. That's a more classic serif font. This one is a more modern serif font. So it has the feel of a sans serif, but then it's blockier, even though it has the serifs and the tails attached to it. These fonts can work well together with handwriting fonts, right? But once again, I will go back to, what did I say? You get inspiration from the things that you look at. So if you focus and you keep doing research and keep filtering amazing design images into your brain, eventually they are going to inspire you even subconsciously to do stuff, you know what I mean? That is easy to communicate and uses fonts in a good way. So these handwriting fonts, similarly to how I think Sean was asking about like the scripts. There are a lot of script fonts. So if I were to take an example from the same Edwardian, right? To be honest, I don't even use this font. But the only reason that I could see someone using this font in this day and age, and there's so many alternatives to it now, but the only reason I could see someone using this font, I'm going to show you how. Is if it were, say for instance, being used on something to do with a wedding, and the person,
a graduation, something like that.
Yes, something classic, something.
Yeah.
Something that yes, very traditional. Because remember I said that it can be dated easily, right? So something very traditional, that literally you wanted it to feel that way. And then even how you lay out will have an impact, right? Never, ever, 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 ever use it as a body font. Never use this as a body text font. Ever, ever, ever. It is impossible to read. Never ever use this as a body text font. So you don't want like a whole bunch of this text for people to have to read it. You know what I mean? It'll become very hieroglyphic in nature. See that? You don't want that. It is built to be on its own. It's built to just literally be on its own. So down here, if you wanted to support this, and even looking at this, no, it doesn't feel like something you would see on a scroll. You know what I mean? Like something vintage, like a scroll or something like that. Yeah. That's basically where it belongs. It belongs like on way back then. Yeah, it belongs on something aged. And then here, I mean, there's a lot of fonts that you can use for that, but if I had to like, if I had to use that font, everything else on that page would have to be super simple, right? It would have to be super, super simple. If it were, you know what I mean? Like if it were a case like that, that would have to be, and even there, I'm like, but yeah, so like there are different ways that you can use that one, but I would suggest honestly doing some research into some other fonts or using some of the other ones that are available. Even when you come down to color, if you're going to be using Edwardian and that has to be black, the rest of your text could be a lighter color just to give your eyes a rest, because this font is so much, like you see how much is going on? It's like ADD in a font. There's so much going on in this font that it needs its own space. And then everybody else is just playing second fiddle. That's how I see that font, if you're gonna have to use it. And the same way how I brought up the wedding thing, if you had to use this for a wedding, you know what I mean? And you were saying, for instance, I don't know, let's say Christopher, that's my husband's name, Christopher, and even the ampersand is a lot. Christopher and Lynelle. You get what I mean? If you had to use that font, it could be something like that. But it's just one of those things that you have to make work for you. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just one of those things. Nice. It's very busy. But there are other ones. There are other ones that you can find, and they're free fonts. And I'm sure that Randy can help you guys find some other fonts that you can use. And Canva, like I said, Canva has some nice fonts too, because here it is. You can do this same thing, right? The same. If you had to put up something on a sign or a label, you can use the same. What is it? Moon time. Yeah, you can use that font too. It also depends, like I said, on the feeling of whatever it is you're doing though, because straight off the bat, you can see this feels less traditional. It feels more friendly, more, you know what I mean? So yeah, it would just be, you just got to decide what you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it. Because for me, this is closer to what it would have been for me. Because you could have that, you could use, there's another font, the font that we actually used for my wedding gave the traditional feel, but it mixed it with modern. So here you would have, There's a font here called Dido. Right? And this is what I actually used at my wedding, and we had it in all caps. So it was more like that kind. Actually, was it that one? Anyhow, that's the point though. It's just, I mean, listen, there's so many things in design. Trust me, you would find yourself sitting down for hours just looking through fonts. It's amazing, honestly, but you gotta want to do it. Actually, it was Chris on it now. So you see how this is a serif font, but it's a more modern serif font, where the details are not pointy, they're actually straight. You get what I mean? And yeah, so you can express different feelings, even though it's a caps font, even though it's a serif font. So you have to experiment. You have to actually know the program that you're working in and know what you have at your disposal. And then once you do that, you hit back that Google and you look for good benchmarks. Never start a design unless you look for benchmarks. Do not create out of midair unless you've been doing this for so long that it has become second nature to you. Because then enough things are lodged in your brain and you can pull from your resources. But don't ever start a design. If somebody tells you, oh, I don't know what I want, drill them. Drill them to find out close at least to what they don't want, so that you're not, shooting in the dark. That's death. That's death for a designer.
Good.
Yeah.
We have a question here, Lynelle. Remind me of the program or system you use again and how to acquire it.
Okay, so
the Adobe Suite and your system.
Right. All right. So what is this? Oh, that's Zoom. Okay, never mind. Right. So the Adobe Suite is
expensive. Unless this is what you do full time.
I wanted to say it, right? But it is very expensive. That's the truth. You're looking at in excess of about $16 US a year. It's a subscription based program.
$1,600 US a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between
you left out the 100. You said 16.
Sorry, not $16. $1,600 US a year. So if you're going to invest in the Adobe Suite, I will show you quickly what it looks like so that you can recognize it if you see it, for anyone who may want to make that investment. And that's exactly what it is. It's an investment. I would suggest that you don't do this unless you have a way to make that money, right? But this is basically
the entire suite now is on cloud, Lynelle, or do we still have the desktop version?
No, everything is CC now, Creative Cloud. Right. Because obviously throughout the years, I mean, there's always ways to find ways around.
Yeah, of course, yeah, we know
around things. But I'm actually legit now. Ever since I started my own business and stuff, I decided to go legit. I have friends who are amazing designers who have not gone that way yet, but I decided to, because there are updates that you get with this, where they change different things in the program to make it better and make it run smoother. So, and then like the program itself offers you so many ways. You can get tutorials. You can actually learn how to use the suite in itself from being involved, or rather from buying the whole thing, right? So there are perks to having the suite, right? These are all the programs here. And they range from the same Illustrator that I was using just now, which is vector base, which you would use to be designing a lot of stuff like this. And then there's Photoshop. I'm sure a lot of you have heard people say Photoshop before. Photoshop is an editing program. You can create things in it as well, but I suggest to people not to, because the file sizes are usually immense. There's Acrobat, which most people know about when they want to look at a PDF and stuff like that. And then there are other programs ranging from things to build books, documents, novels, magazines, Premiere, which is video editing, After Effects, which is motion graphics. So when you see like the same thing that happened when, see that motion that you get there? That's what you call motion graphics. So you can, there are programs in the suite to do that. Everything that you're seeing on this site was done in the suite. So if it's something that any of you want to invest in, it is a very, very good investment, but it is an investment. If you don't want to use the Adobe suite, there are alternatives. Some friends of mine were actually telling me about some other programs that you can use that are way cheaper. I think there's one, a client of mine was actually telling me about one, but I would have to do some research on that, and I could easily tell Randy, unless he knows some of them already, he could tell Randy, and then he could actually link you guys with them if any of you want to move away from Canva, because Canva, it might be good to start, but if you want to expand and you want to have more control over your artboard and the things that you can move around and shift and build, Canva will not do it for you, right? It will not do it for you. It will limit you. If you want to do something quick and one of their templates works, cool. But if you want to have a bit more control and develop your skills, then you may have to look into one of the other programs. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I think the question was also on system. Obviously,
right, so,
when you buy the software, it gives you your minimum, the requirements that you need for that particular software, and you always try to go above the requirements in building and getting your system. So depend on this software. Adobe, as Lynelle knows, is intense. It's very resource heavy, so you need to ensure. But it will tell you what you need. So then,
but I mean, and Randy's a computer man. Actually, before he moved over there, Randy used to be the guy that I looked to when I needed to upgrade my system and when I needed to do things on my computer and I didn't understand a certain things. So he's definitely a good resource. If you want to, I'm a Mac person, I'm an Apple person. So everything I own is Apple, but all of these programs work on PC as well. So that's not an issue. It's just a matter of figuring out what works best for you. But yeah. It'd be good if y'all could talk to Randy a little bit.
Great. All right, I'll hand you over to. No. I can't even see his face, and that's good. I'll hand you over to Sean now as we close.
Well, we've definitely been taught today. Lynelle, thank you very much for lending your expertise to us. I know Pastor is taking care of the bill. I just want to make sure he doesn't use any counterfeit currency.
No, man, no, man. That's my guy. All real, that's my guy.
I know, definitely. I like the fact that there's a science towards this thing. It's not haphazard. It's not like, pull names from a hat. And I'm sure a lot of us have been doing that over the years. Something that we find looks nice and pretty, plenty fonts, plenty colors, but that basically defies all the rules of design, and we really appreciate that. You would know that persons from all over would have been listening to this, and I want to encourage those who are on here to not just keep this knowledge to yourself, but distribute it. Alvita is saying thank you so much. Antigua is based in Antigua. Alvita is based in Antigua.
Oh, nice.
For now, that's a message to Gavin.
Oh, shoot.
For now. That's what, and they're posting some Indian work, which is in more like south central of Trinidad. If Indian work could correct me. Indian work is not the Tabakit, right? If it could correct me there.
Say again.
There's someone from Indian Walk Church, which is more central south of the country. So your teachings are going to reach far and wide.
That's great. That's great.
And we thank God that He's been able to use you and your talents in ministry. This is what we're trying to do as well. And we having a good time. I mean, the little jobs we get from the pastor, every now and then he does his best to lower our self-esteem. But we know it's in good fun and he means well.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe there's a way, we could teach him how to design his criticism sometimes.
His heart is huge. So.
Just joking. But I mean, I believe, honestly, it's through him we're able to have this presentation, and it was definitely a lesson learned, and we can use these things going forward, because all this is for Christ. All of this is to allow the message to be packaged in a way where it's attractive to everyone.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah. Could I just tell you guys how to find me if you need me, if you want to look at anything that I've done, you know what I mean, to help you as well. I have 2 pages on Instagram.
Right.
I'm gonna drop them in the chat here now.
Now, Lynelle, contrary to popular belief, Trinidad has Instagram. I know in recent times. Right. So yeah. So let's just clear that up. You know.
I mean, all of my friends that live in Trinidad or are from Trinidad have Instagram. So I kind of thought so.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Nathaniel or Sherry Amon or anybody like that. Those are gospel artists, Christian artists that either live in Trinidad or live here and are based.
Okay,
born in Trinidad. Okay. Yeah, but I got a number of friends over there, man. So definitely. I know you guys got Instagram. So
yeah. So you can rubbish the media reports that circulated recently. So
my goodness, listen, I've seen all of them. Trinidad, I'm sure your name hasn't been called that much in a minute.
Correct.
But that happens when you have 22 million followers. So
That's correct.
Yeah. So my 2 pages, being as Randy would have told you guys that I'm actually a recording artist, so I'll share both pages with you, both on the design and the music side. And the music page is Lyrics Music.
Right, I saw that Lyrics,
right. Right. And then the design page is actually my name, but it's LYNELE Creative. So I dropped both of those in the chat, and you can feel free to think. My portfolio literally is Lynelle Creative. You'll be able to see things that I've done both on the print side, on the digital side, and also I've done what you call sound branding. So if I don't know if you guys would hear when you hear ads on the radio and stuff like that, and you can always tell some companies have a little sound bite that it's them.
A jingle.
Yeah, but not a jingle. A jingle is a full length thing.
Okay,
but y'all know Republic Bank down there, right?
Yeah.
Right. So Republic Bank, stuff like that. It's literally 4 notes, but it is an entire brand. Internationally, people do it all the time. IBM, all kind of people do it. So I kind of do that stuff as well. Same jingles and all that kind of
like Law and Order.
Dun dun, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
State Farm.
Yeah. State Farm, Allstate, all those people. Those are things that stick in your mind as a designer. As you go and you build your research base, you'll butt up on all those things, and you'll understand that design is so multifaceted. Whether it's design physically, sound, music, everything is design. Okay. Yeah. But those are my 2 pages, and you guys can feel free to go on and look at them, follow, and give it a like. Yeah.
Well, Lynn, thank you for
Oh Lord, Randy signal bad.
To Lynelle.
Is that Caitlin? Aries.
Hello.
It's me. Hi. I can hardly see you guys because it's dark, but yeah.
I'm in the yard. So thank you so much, Lynn, for being with us. We will continue to keep in touch. Actually, I don't need to go yet. I want you to stay. I guess the others could go. Sean and Faith, Lynelle, please stay on. Everybody else, thank you so much for being here. We're going to make the recording available. And the last recording we had on branding with Josh, we're going to make that available too. So guys, thank you for joining us. Let us pray before we go. Father, thank you so much. Again, with the gospel. Bless us all and keep us in Jesus' name. Amen.